Let's begin with the possible starters of the returning players and freshmen for Syracuse basketball next season. And let's begin with J.J. Starling, a junior shooting guard who transferred from Notre Dame last season. Last year, he started all 32 games for Syracuse on 34 minutes a game. Perhaps he doesn't play 34 minutes a game. That is an obscene number, and I think Syracuse has more depth than it did last season. But I think he is going to start every single game for this team next year, assuming that he is healthy. Last year, he averaged 13 points, 3 rebounds, and 2 assists per game on 46% shooting, which is pretty good. Only 32% from 3 and 71% from the free throw line, which isn't as good. I believe that his role for next year is going to be pretty similar to last year, except with there not being any Judah Mintz. I think that J.J. Starling is going to be the primary shot creator for Syracuse basketball next season. As the starting shooting guard, he could possibly be the one if Syracuse does something at the guard spot, right? If they add in another starting combo guard, or if they play a taller lineup, who knows if J.J. Starling will actually slide to point guard, but nevertheless, he's going to be in the starting lineup for next season. I think we can all assume that. The good news with J.J. Starling is that while his efficiency numbers don't really scream out at you as being anywhere super impressive, right? 32% from 3 isn't really the greatest in the world. It's not awful, but it's kind of like the borderline of like, all right, you're taking a lot of attempts here to only be 32%. His numbers did get better once ACC play rolled around, and that kind of correlates to the fact that he got better as the season went along, whether it was the fact that he was dealing with an injury in the first half of the season and or adjusting to being on a new team. He got better. He was 48% from the field against the ACC, 36% three-point range against, or 36% from 3 against the ACC. I think he's going to have a better season than he did last year, and last year was an improvement from his freshman season. His numbers went up across the board. I would say a fair expectation when we're talking about the role of J.J. Starling as the primary shot creator, the starting shooting guard, maybe the starting point guard. I think at minimum it should be to make an all-ACC team next season. At minimum. I think he does have that capability in him. He's a former 5-star high school recruit. He was one of the top players in the transfer portal when Syracuse got him last year. And he nearly made it last season. He was close. He didn't quite get there to even the honorable mention team. But I believe that if he can continue his efficiency numbers that he showed at the end of last season, where he was 36% from 3 against the ACC, he will make an all-conference team. So I think that is a fair expectation for J.J. Starling next season when we're talking about the roles of the returning players and who's possibly starting and who's going to start for next season. Moving on from J.J. Starling is Chris Bell. Chris Bell is a junior small forward. He has spent both seasons with the Orange after being a 4-star high school recruit in the class of 2022. He is the lone player from that class that is left. He started all 32 games for Syracuse last season on 27 minutes a night. And in fact, Chris Bell has played a total of 62 career college games for the Orange, and he has started every single one of them. So no reason to not believe that Chris Bell won't be in the starting lineup for next season. Last year, he averaged 12 points, 2 rebounds, and 1 assist per game. He was 43% from the field, which is not great, but most of his shot attempts come from the three-point line, where he was 42%. That's pretty good. It was second in the ACC and top 20 overall in the country in three-point percentage. And his efficiency, kind of like J.J. Starling, was even better in ACC play. Their offense overall got better as the season went along last season. His role, pretty similar to last year, is to be the team's main sharpshooter, the main weapon, someone who can change a game on a dime, right? Didn't he hit like 8 threes against NC State in the first half last season? I mean, he has that capability. He's the guy who can do that. He's the primary sharpshooter. I would say he is going to be the starting small forward for next season, but it's possible if they run a taller lineup that he would slide over to the 2. That's possible. I also expect that he will see more than 27 minutes a game, at least for right now, because Syracuse does lack shooting on its team right now, and you need it. I think you need Chris Bell on the floor despite him not being great in other aspects of the game, right? I think his defense has definitely got to improve. I would like to see him get better on offense more than just shooting the basketball, right? Maybe he can become someone who can create his own shot off the dribble. But for now, Chris Bell, I expect to be the team's main sharpshooter for next season. That is his role. And I believe, similar to J.J. Starling, once again, a fair expectation for Chris Bell next season is to make an all-ACC team. I think that's fair for him too, considering the fact that he was second in the ACC last year in three-point percentage and averaged 12 points a game. He's not a well-rounded player, but he's an excellent shooter, and you don't need to be a well-rounded player to make an all-conference team. You don't need to be great at everything. But I think he's going to be better next season. I think his numbers are going to go up across the board. Dare I say, even if J.J. Starling is the primary shot creator, is Chris Bell going to lead the team in scoring? 15 points per game, maybe. I think it's possible. But I would say a fair expectation for Chris Bell, make an all-conference team. So of the 2 returning players for Syracuse basketball that are possibly starters, J.J. Starling, fair expectation to make an all-conference team, and Chris Bell to make an all-conference team. That's what I have for them. Now, moving on to, I said freshmen at the top of the show. I'm going to include the freshmen in here as well. Donnie Freeman, I expect to be in the starting lineup. He was the number 6 overall recruit in the ESPN 100 in the past rankings. He is said to be able to score at all 3 levels. He is also a good defender and a really good rebounder in the EYBL. He was second in the league, only behind Derek Queen, who is a 5-star player going to Maryland. And Syracuse is going to face Maryland, so that should be a good matchup. I have a podcast about Donnie Freeman, and here's the deal. I mean, just based on recruiting rankings and where these guys tend to end up in their first year in college, I'll repeat it. 9 of the past 10 number 6 overall recruits in the country have been one-and-done players. So I would set the expectations for Donnie Freeman really, really high. That being said, I think bare minimum for Donnie next season is to make an all-freshman team. I think that's bare minimum, all-freshman first team in the ACC. I think he could make a run for ACC Freshman of the Year. It kind of hurts him that he is the second highest recruit in the ACC. The problem is that the number 1 overall player in the country in Cooper Flagg is on Duke. So it might not be Donnie Freeman's fault that if he doesn't get ACC Freshman of the Year, but it's certainly possible. Judah Mintz came close. He came close. I believe he lost it to Kyle Filipowski. Perhaps Donnie Freeman once again follows suit and finishes second in the ACC Rookie of the Year or ACC Freshman of the Year, whatever they want to call it. But at minimum for Donnie Freeman, I would say a fair expectation for him is to make an ACC all-freshman team, just at minimum. You're the number 6 overall high school player in the country. I believe he should have an immediate impact day 1 for this team. So that concludes the possible starters, but really probable starters of the returning players for Syracuse basketball next season, plus freshmen. I have J.J. Starling as probably the starting shooting guard, his role being the primary shot creator and hopefully making an all-ACC team. Chris Bell, primary sharpshooter, going to probably be the starting small forward. And again, a fair expectation, make an all-ACC team. And Donnie Freeman, as I just said, at minimum, make an all-freshman team as the number 6 overall recruit in the country. So coming up, we'll talk about, of the returning players, who I think is going to come off the bench, plus Elijah Moore, a freshman.